Hello everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the history of video games. My name is Wes. I am here with Ben. Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Wes?
I am doing pretty good myself. Do you want to get us started off today with what you've been playing recently?
Yeah, although I don't really know what to talk about. I mean, I've got a couple different options. I can talk about WoW, obviously. Could talk about Lord of the Rings, the Third Age again.
Oh
I
yeah.
played it a little bit. I'm into like this next big area, and the world's kind of opened up a bit. I mean, it's still kind of linear, but it's like the map's much bigger. So there's a lot more of that. Monsters can kind of spawn at any time feeling. So you can grind it a bit, but it's also like a much harder area. I'm getting a bunch of like Uruk-hai now that I'm fighting,
Oh yikes.
and they're just way harder than goblins. So yeah, it's a little rough, but it's going okay. I feel like I might have to grind in this area a little bit to catch up, because if this is like hard, I'm a little concerned about the next area. But yeah, man, after the
Right.
Balrog, it just went into like fourth gear or something. I don't know. It's a little weird, but
Crazy.
yeah. So maybe there's just some balancing issues with the game. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe it's supposed to ramp up. I mean, I know I forget if I mentioned this on the episode or if it was after last time, but it does sound sort of early or like mid Final Fantasy game-esque.
Mm-hmm.
And I know grinding's kind of like part of the game for a lot of those, whether intended or not. A bunch of them have it, so maybe it's just sort of that style of party turn-based combat kind of game.
Yeah, it definitely could be. I'm not sure, but I'm still enjoying it. I'm still making steady progress, and haven't really wiped, but it's been close sometimes. Otherwise, that's been pretty good. I need to play it more, obviously. The other thing I want to mention, I played Among Us with a couple friends the other night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I played it on my iPad because apparently it's free on mobile devices. I think on computer it costs maybe $5 or something.
It is, yes. I just picked it up a little bit ago.
Okay. Yeah, it was a little interesting. I wasn't very good at it because I'm just not a very good like liar, I guess. And I was playing with a pretty chill group, but like some of my friends from high school were on the debate team and stuff, and so it's like if someone's like accuses you of something, assuming that maybe they're imposter or something, I'm kind of just dead.
Right.
So it's not the best game for me, but I think it's still fun. I had a good time. The mini games are pretty good, I think.
I do like
They're
those. They're
fun
fun.
enough.
Yeah, once you get used to them, like the wire connecting is fun. I didn't realize how scary it was though to do any of those tasks because it purposefully like the minigame takes up your whole screen, right? So
Yeah,
it's
it
just like
does.
anyone can just pop up behind you.
Yeah. Something I didn't realize is how many variables that the party can change. So I think we were playing it with everybody having like 2 times speed so they could run around. And you can set like how many tasks you need to win. So the first like
Oh,
couple of times we
interesting.
played it, they split them up into short and long tasks, and the people I was playing with didn't have any long tasks enabled. So it was a little different. It was cool, but I was like, oh, I enjoy how many parameters you can set. It definitely adds to the replayability of it, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't mess around with that. I only played once and it was kind of in a group of like 8 other people and I only knew
Mm-hmm.
like 2 of them. So I was like, I'm
Yeah,
just going to sit here quietly and let them do whatever and have a good time. So, but that's awesome that there's that much option for replayability.
yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna be playing it much more, but it was pretty fun. I'm glad I did it with them. It's always good to grab a couple friends together and play some party games. Yeah, that was kind of like my week. Not too much like in depth, but I was playing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
But what have you been up to? I hear there's something new.
There is something new. And if you have time this week and it's your type of game, it might be your new addiction as it is for me.
Okay.
It's real weird. It's a new game that came out called Genshin Impact. It's made by a Chinese company called MiHoYo, I think.
Okay.
And it is Breath of the Wild, except
Hmm.
free to play, and everything's like anime times 11. So
Okay.
it is just like so strange, but it's really, really good, which is super weird. I was turned off at first when I saw it because it's very like it's free to play, so you like buy characters or basically you buy loot boxes, which have a very small percent chance to contain characters. Basically, that whole kind of framework,
Hmm.
and obviously, it being a very anime game, all the characters are very like stereotypical anime girl. It's weird. And so that turned me off to it at first because I was like, just give me normal characters. Like, they don't all need to be like these weird, sexy
Like cat
anime.
people.
Yeah, yeah. There are a few cat people. Yes, you called it. So I don't mind that. I mean, it's not my thing, but it gets people to pay for the free to play game to keep it free to play. But the gameplay is just literally free to play Breath of the Wild with like no compromises. You just have this gigantic open world that like levels and there's different areas that kind of scale, but then you can also upgrade the whole world so the whole world scales with you as you get to higher levels. There's like dungeons and instances that you can grind for the premium currency.
Is this like a single player game or is it with other people?
So it's single player for the most part, but then after you play for what ends up being 8 hours ish of gameplay to get to this one rank, you can do co op up to 4 players.
Hmm.
And the other weird thing about it that differentiates it from Legend of Zelda is instead of it just being one character, you play as a 4 party team, controlling one character at a
Ooh.
time with a 1 second cooldown in between switching characters. And each
Hmm.
character has a type, which is one of 7 different elemental types. And they have
Now we're
combos.
talking.
Yeah, they have like these crazy combos where like I use my fire guy to light this character on fire. I switch to my wind character and shoot him, and then it causes this wind fire tornado that damages everybody in the area.
It kind of sounds like there's like a Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Have you ever played that game?
No, but I remember you talking about it.
Yeah, it's an old game, and basically you had a team of 4 people. 3 of them were AI controlled, but you switched like at any moment your primary guy that you were fighting with. But it was just awesome because there were so many combinations of I don't know Spider-Man web some dude, and that gives somebody else an opportunity to do something. It's just kind of like what you're saying. Now I'm really seeing why you want a lot of characters.
Yes, yeah, and I'm very thankful because I mean they give you 4 off the bat, like for free, that have 4 different elements and are perfectly fun to play with. But then I
Hmm.
got also because it's like the first week that it's out, they're giving away tons of free stuff. And I got like just enough that I'm like, okay, I have 4 characters I'm happy with. If I wanted to, I could just roll the whole game like this and I'd be pretty good to
Hmm.
go. So it's a good place to be in with a very low percentage loot box type of game.
Okay, one question though.
Yeah.
I think this will make or break the game for me. Are there different like star variations of the characters?
Yes, there are.
Oh God,
Well,
I'm worried now.
not star variations, but if you get a repeat character, it unlocks new abilities for the character. So,
I don't know. It's a little sketch.
yeah, and I understand your skepticism, but that's why, like, I'm playing with a bunch of them that I only got one of the characters, like 3 out of 4 of my party. I only
Mhm.
have gotten rolled the character one time, and their base abilities are like perfectly fine.
Okay.
It's just passive abilities that you get if you roll them again. So there's definitely incentive to do it, but right now I haven't felt compelled to I haven't felt like I'm bottlenecked. But we'll
Mhm.
see because I'm only like 3 days to playing it in, and I'm already running out of all of the currencies. So I'm determined at this point not to spend anything on it. If I play it for a couple more weeks and I still like it, I probably will. But it's been really good so far. It's definitely worth downloading. It's only like 20 gigs. It downloaded super fast.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And then you can just play it. It's its own launcher, so it's not in Steam or anything, but it's super fun. It's free. They give you a bunch of stuff out the gate, so you get that like dopamine of all the opening packs and stuff.
Hmm.
And hopefully you get like enough characters to get a good thing and go through the main story quests, which is also very good. A little weird. I mean, very, very anime. So you have to kind of be into it, but it's really fun. And I'm still like only halfway through the story, I think, or maybe getting towards the end. and I've only discovered like half the world. And they've already said that
Yeah.
like down the line, there's going to be additions to the world map and all that.
Mhm.
So it's super good. I recommend checking it out, if anything, so we could do a co-op sometime. But
Yeah.
it
I'm
was
definitely going to check it out. I mean, it's free. Why not?
exactly. And then that's how they get you. No, but
Yeah.
but I was super skeptical at first, but I'm glad I tried it out because it's super fun combat, which I wasn't really expecting.
Mhm.
That's pretty
That
much
sounds
what I've been
cool.
up to. Yeah,
That was a good find.
I know.
I've never even heard of it.
I don't know what I searched. Maybe I was looking up like cooking guides for Breath of the Wild or something, but it started appearing on my ads, and I was like, oh,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
sure.
Why not? Why don't we take a break, go into our special topic? Guys, today is the last episode for 1977. Can you believe it?
It's kind of
After today,
crazy.
we will be done. It's been a long road, the longest year yet by far. But we've come across a lot of great games, a lot of weird stuff, and just a lot of different things have happened. So I thought maybe for today, we'd give you guys a quick review of 1977. Obviously, next episode, we're going to talk about our favorite games of the year. So we're going to kind of steer away from the games or software itself, but there's a lot of other things that happened in 77, from computer hardware releases to consoles to just trends in general, that I thought, why don't we give a nice kind of overview and wrap it up, since it's the last episode today. So I'm going to start. I want to start by talking really quickly, reminding everybody about the video game crash in 1977, because we've talked about it a little bit here and there. You know, people that listen to us a lot, you might already know, but it's important to get since we're in 1977. Basically, the video game crash of 1977 was all about first generation consoles and them just littering the shelves to the point where nobody wanted them. And then they had to sell them at a loss, and people still didn't want them. And then they just tried to give them away, and people were like, no, I'm okay. So, kind of to review, in 77, I think I had around 1,000 first generation consoles that I logged. And that list, you guys can find it on the website somewhere. But it's a lot, and almost all of those companies kind of went bankrupt or stopped making consoles after 77 because they just weren't selling. The real reason because of all of that is the AY3 8500 chip, which I guess could be bought at a premium, and then companies would just kind of make a box for it, slap their name on it, and be like, this is a new game.
Right.
And they would do that multiple times with the same company, because you could inhibit the games on the chip. So maybe you sold the same chip but only let the people play 4 games, and then you could sell the same chip and have all 6 available. So they would kind of try to resell the same console by doing that. It just didn't really go very well. In 78, I know there's about 300 first gen consoles, which is about a 70% decrease. So it's obvious that the first generation's kind of behind us now, and it all kind of was a result of the AY3 8500 and this kind of crash in the first generation market, which did affect everybody, even people like Atari. They still made a lot of first generation consoles this year, but they're going to kind of stop doing that. And there's other companies such as like Sears as well and Magnavox that after 77, the amount of consoles that they're pushing out is just not quite as high. And instead, they're going to be focusing more on those bigger second gen machines, which, by the way, let's talk about second gen, because going into 77, all we had was one second generation console, the Fairchild Channel F. But in 77, we saw 2 more editions, the RCA Studio 2 and the Atari 2600. One of those was really good, the 2600. And then we actually played all of the games for the RCA Studio 2. So that one kind of lived and died in 77, which makes sense because it kind of came out in black and white when the Fairchild was already in color. And
Right.
the resolution wasn't good, and it just had a bunch of problems. So we had 3 second gen consoles this year, and already one of them's gone, and we're going to still see Fairchild and the 2600 next year. They're going to still be going strong, so I'm super excited for that. And then I think the last thing I wanted to say was trends in the arcade genre. It's kind of hard to say with arcades because they're so varied and diversified. But there's one thing that really stood out to me when I thought about this year, and that's the hand painted backgrounds. Because I don't think we saw that before 77. I could be wrong.
I don't think so either, or at least not as many.
Yeah, it's definitely was a trend this year. And honestly, I'm pretty okay about it. I think in general, what it's meant is since the hand painted background is taking up a lot of the work for the graphics, the actual program graphics are all black and white, and they're a lot more focused on animation and just like character resolution and display good sprites and stuff, you know? So I don't know. I feel like it kind of pushed video games towards a more animation centric path, and I'm totally cool with that this year, and a more like detailed sprite path. That's probably the biggest thing about the arcades, unless you have anything else you could think of, Wes, but I think that's the biggest thing we saw there.
I would say so. And also, I mean, this is just off the top of my head without looking through all the games, but I feel like a lot of the sort of like missile target shooting games we played were in 77.
We did see a lot of those, yeah.
I think there definitely were some in 76, but just like the whole trend after, I want to say like Missile X being one of the first ones, just a bunch of those, whether it's submarine, a battleship dropping bombs, something else dropping bombs, something shooting missiles up at planes. There's a lot of those now.
Yeah, I think ever since, I think Seawolf was 76, or maybe
Yes.
Depth Charge, which was a Atari's kind of version. But yeah, we saw a lot of those this year. That's definitely a trend. Obviously, also something that I forgot to mention, space, because Star Wars came out. We saw a lot more towards the end of the year, but stuff like Space Wars by Cinematronics, Starship One by Atari. There's a lot of space themed things going on as well, which I'm pretty okay about. So, and also just like scrolling graphics, that's like not even really like a bonus anymore. It's like, okay, yeah, I've seen scrolling graphics. Now we want the scrolling playfield that Superbug had. That was like one of the biggest innovations of the year, I think. But just like normal scrolling graphics in one direction, it's kind of like, eh. So we've seen a lot more of those too, and that's like kind of industry standard now, I want to say.
Yeah.
A lot of cool stuff. But why don't you talk about computers now, Wes? What have we seen on that front?
Yeah, so taking us through 77, obviously the big innovations in computers for 77 are going to be the holy trinity of computers. The Apple II, which had color graphics, a full keyboard, and came all in one nice plastic case. It interpreted BASIC with information that was already stored on the ROM. And even though it had less sales than the other two in the holy trinity, it lasted a lot longer. And then there was the Commodore PET, which was built on the MOS 6502 processor. And again, as you'll see with all three of these, came with cassette player, monitor, and keyboard all in one case. This one famously had the very tiny keys that people ended up calling the Chiclet keyboard after the popular gum Chiclets. And then the last of the holy trinity of computers was the TRS-80, which I like to remind myself because I think it's funny that it was made by Tandy Corporation and Radio Shack. For some reason, just Radio Shack and computer history doesn't meld with me. It seems a little weird. But again, it had, for the TRS-80, it actually had the keyboard and the motherboard in one unit and the monitor and power supply in a separate one, but still sold all as one package. So the big thing with this holy trinity in 77 is that you're finally seeing all of the pieces for like a functioning consumer computer, a personal computer, put together and sold at once for a fairly reasonable price, although some of these were pretty expensive. But it just made it so much more accessible than the like piece it together homebrew computing computer kits that people were making before. I forget if it was the TRS-80 or the Commodore PET, but in 78 magazines would say like, this is the birth of the personal computer and personal computing movement. So these three, they just really did a bunch for putting computers in the hands of everyone and a bunch of people who can mess with it, enjoy games, and then program their own games.
Yeah. And so with that being a nice little roundup of the year, let's get into the final games. Hello and welcome back to the history of video games. Let's just hop right into the games today. We've got kind of a nice one here. It's a nice assortment, but we're gonna
Ooh,
start off with a couple honorable mentions, starting with Casino by Elcon, which came out December of 1977. We don't have much info for it, but we do know it played blackjack, similar to something like Hit Me by Ramtech. Kind of just another blackjack arcade machine.
we've seen a bunch of them, but
Mhm.
this one sounds interesting and possibly a little different. Next up, we have Cartoon Gun by Sega, also in December, as with most of the games that we're talking about today, or I guess all of the games that we're talking about today. And we don't really have much info on this one either, other than that it is probably some kind of comical light gun game.
Yeah, I know you're shooting like rabbits and ducks and stuff, but I think they're supposed to be like the artwork images kind of had that like a Bugs Bunny type vibe to it.
That makes sense with something like Cartoon Gun. You're just shooting Bugs Bunny for some reason.
Yeah. Do you remember which was that one that had the human-sized rabbit that was walking on two legs? I forget now. Was that a Sega one?
Oh,
I
geez.
reviewed that.
Might
It
have
had like
been.
the Mushroom Man in it and stuff.
Yes, I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah, me neither. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
But then for our next honorable mention, we have Amusement Kino and Amusement Bingo by Circoma and A1 Supply. Again, we don't have too much info on this one, but it looks like they were in color, and we have seen some dates for 1979 for this as well.
Yeah, so not quite sure there, but I want to say the 77 because it's pretty simple. It's like bingo. And Keno is some kind of board game or something. Or
Okay.
like gambling game, I'm not sure. That's going to move me to the first one that I'm going to rate today called Ricochet by Nutting Associates. We haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah.
The company hasn't been doing the best, but they did get this game out. It's weird though. This is a clone of TV Pinball by Exidy, which came out in 1974.
Ooh.
So they're a little late to the party, but this one came out in December of 77. And the reason why I'm reviewing it is because throughout all the years from 1974 to now, there hasn't been one clone of this game that we could review. We've only ever had flyers for it, and I've always wondered what the gameplay actually was. And I actually found a video of Ricochet, the Nutting Associates version, and I was like, I have to rate it because I always wanted to know what it was. And there's been a lot of clones of it too, maybe like 5 to 10 clones over
Right.
the years. I think this is the last one we're going to see because it's so late to the party. But I was like, oh, well, I have to do it. And just a heads up, I was a little bit more gentle to it because it was supposed to come out 3 years ago. But essentially, this is a Pong game. The good old days, right?
Oh, man.
It's kind of reminiscent of like Clean Sweep, which you did. It has a pinball vibe to it, it has a breakout vibe. And it's just kind of a combination of all those things. It's basically Pong with your paddle at the bottom, and then a bunch of breakable bricks in the middle of the screen. And on the outsides of the screen, you have some parts that are hard walls or the ball breaks, and then you have what they called pockets. But it's not like the ball disappears, but it does hit a pocket, it stays there for a second, and then the pocket shoots it back out in a random direction. And sometimes it feels like at a random speed too. So that is like a weird mechanic. I don't know if it makes a lot of sense, but it definitely has like kind of that craziness of like a pinball game vibe to it because you're hitting all these blocks on the screen. The blocks they're not like breakout or it's a solid line. It's more like a bunch of pegs in the middle of the field. So there's a bunch of space in between the blocks, but the ball can definitely like get lost in the middle of them and hit a whole bunch before moving off. That's kind of the game. It's kind of one dimensional in a sense. You have one playing field and you're just really trying to hit all the bricks. I do know if you clear the whole field of bricks, a new one will spawn in as like your extra game or something like
Okay.
that. So you could kind
Nice.
of go forever. But I'm pretty sure if the ball goes past you, it's game over. It's like a one life thing.
Oh, it's not even like four
It's not
balls,
timed
pinball,
or
or
yeah.
weird.
Yeah, it seems pretty strict on that. That could be like the Ricochet version of this game, because I'm sure every clone was a little different in that respect, but the basics are all the same, which is this Pong pinball hybrid type thing with breakout elements because you're destroying the bumpers, as you will. It was kind of interesting. In this version, the Nutting Associates version, it is in color, which helps. It's Pong though, so it's kind of just like the bumpers are different colors, the paddle is a different color, but it's kind of nice. I think it's 5 colors total. You've got black, white, green, red, and yellow. So altogether, like, it definitely gives me a casino kind of vibe to it, which I think is what they were going for. You do have scores on the screen at all time, which is a little annoying. And it is 2-player, although only one person can play at a time. So I think if you lose, then it's the other person's turn, and they're just trying to beat you, I guess. Altogether, a simple little Pong game. I think it does enough different to differentiate itself from something like a Clean Sweep or even Breakout or just normal Pong, especially with the little pockets that throw the ball back and the fact that all the bricks are breakable. In 1974, that wasn't really a thing, so
Right.
I think it's pretty cool for what it is. And I would have loved to have played it in 74, considering it's one of Exidy's first games, and they've obviously gone on to do some cool stuff. So let me get into my ratings here. For gameplay, I gave it 1.75. I think it's just a pretty solid time. I actually thought a lot about if I would rather play this game or another game called Super Flipper, which I did rate, which was basically a pinball screen, but you had Pong paddles where the bumpers would be, or what are they called? Are they called bumpers?
The flippers?
Your flippers. Yeah, where the flippers would be, it was like Pong paddles. And I think I'd rather play this one because I feel like with a real pinball type feeling, there are moments when sometimes it's just out of your control and you're going to lose, you know? And there's also like moments where the ball can just get stuck for a long time and you're just sitting there watching it.
Right, yeah.
But on this one, it was a lot more kind of dynamic feeling, and there was a sense of, okay, I need to actually try to aim my shots so that it hits the couple bumpers that I have left, and I need to always make sure that the ball's not going to go off, especially with, like, whenever it goes into one of those pockets, and there's, I think, 7 pockets on the screen, so if it ever goes into one of those, which is pretty likely, it could be bouncing off at any angle, even right towards the bottom,
Right.
so you always gotta be wary of it. Oh, I forgot to mention too, there's a paddle on the opposite side of the screen that just goes left to right, back and forth forever, and you just get extra points if you hit it. But it creates another kind of movement to the screen, which otherwise would be pretty stale.
Right. Nice.
I thought it was pretty good. I kind of liked it. It doesn't really have any replayability. Like, I think if I were playing this, as soon as I felt like, oh, I can clear the screen, and I did it or whatever, it's like, I don't know if I really want to keep clearing the screen and keep playing this. But I think you kind of had that with Clean Sweep, where it's like, I kind of wanted to see how far you could get. But after that moment, it's kind of like, that's all that there is.
Yeah.
So I thought playing it one or two times would be pretty appropriate, and I think I'd enjoy myself. So for a Pong game, 1.75. Doesn't really stack up in 77, but it's okay. I don't mind it too much. Same thing with the graphics, really. It's very, very basic. There's no sprites, but it is in color, and they do a pretty good job of alternating the colors in such a way that it has like a nice aesthetic to it. I mean, it's kind of Pong, so there's not a whole lot going there, but I thought for what they had, I was pretty okay with it. Again, like, it wasn't terrible to look at. It was different enough to catch my eye for a bit. So I gave it 1.5. I felt it could be way worse. I thought for sure it was going to be in black and white, but it seems to be in true color, so that was cool. Or maybe it was an overlay. I don't know. But one of the two.
Either way.
Yeah. And then sound. This was really weird. So you have your classic Pong sounds, which is like, who cares? But then whenever you broke one of these like blocks in the screen, a doorbell sound happened. Like a very distinct doorbell. I was like, is this because they're trying to make it pinball, and like maybe that's kind of a pinballish sound? I don't know. But it's super weird. It feels almost electromechanical in a sense. And it does get on your nerves. So that was just a really weird addition. But I don't know, it kind of has a musical thing to it. It's your classic like ding dong. but it's just kind of out of place a little bit. Although, would I rather just have pure Pong sounds? Probably not.
Right.
So it was kind of a lose lose, but I gave it a little bit of credit because it at least tried to add something unique. So I gave it 1.25. Maybe it was a little generous, but I went for it.
Heard to hear Ben loves doorbells. Let's
No,
put him in every game.
no. And then lastly here, relevance. I gave it 6 out of 10. That wasn't so much of for this version specifically, but we've got like 5 to 10 of these TV pinball games. And since we've never been able to rate them before, I thought I'll bump it up a little bit because this was a unique game and seemed fairly popular for the time because we got a lot more clones of it than I would have expected. So I kind of included the whole series in my relevance here. But for Ricochet by Nutting Associates, I don't think this one sold very well. We have one video of it, which is more than any of the other ones. So I guess that's good, but it didn't really help Nutting that much. So I left it at just a 6 out of 10. It's Pong, and other people have taken Pong to so many better places. But it's not terrible. And then overall, I gave it a 1.5 out of 10. I think it's decently good for a Pong game, especially if I treat it in a better light, let's say from the view of 1974 compared
Right.
to 77. But even in 77, I think it's worth a play or two. And luckily, 77, we haven't had a whole lot of Pong games. So maybe actually in 76 or 75, I would have looked at it worse. But
Right. Yeah, we would have been so tired of it by then.
yeah. But I think it's decently unique, especially because of the brick breaking. You have to think this is before Breakout came out when this first happened. So I think that's kind of cool. And it had that clean sweep vibe where you want to clear the whole screen. I think that's those are some good aspects of it. All in all, I was pretty happy considering it's another Pong game.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like if you're going into it, you don't really know what to expect with TV pinball, except for that we've seen a bunch of them. But it sounds at least like worth playing, interesting, and it's like, okay, it's different. It's not all the pinball games we've played, and it's not all the Pong games that we've played. It's a mashup with its own twist on it.
Yeah. I kept going back to Super Flipper, which is a more authentically pinball variation, you know? And I just kind of liked this better. I had more control, it was a little bit more dynamic, and I really thought about that as I was doing these reviews. I was like, oh, I'm actually trying to pay more attention playing this game. That's probably a good sign. So, yeah, that's Ricochet by Nutting Associates. Wes, why don't you move us into something that is truly 1977?
Yes, yeah. So getting back into the future of 1977, we are taking a look at Super Speed Race by Taito, which, as you may guess, is the follow-up to Speed Race. We've seen several cabinets for it and several different releases of it. There might have been a re-release in this in 78. So it was difficult to find videos where we were 100% certain that's the 1977 version of this. So when I'm talking about some of the gameplay features, it's going to be a little, I think this was in it, I think that wasn't.
Yeah.
But I think I've got a pretty good idea of it, and I'm at least going to rate it on those because with all the new features that this one has, it's definitely a pretty awesome follow-up to Speed Race, let alone the fact that it is in color.
Oh, yeah.
Great to see it in Speed Race. Finally, we love to have color in these games. And it was run on a Zilog Z80 microprocessor, and it could run 16 colors on this. So pretty good for an arcade cabinet. And the cabinet itself, I think they were supposed seated at standing versions with a pedal, shifter, and steering wheel. Getting into the gameplay, it's pretty much just Speed Race for the gameplay. At least that's a good baseline. I mean, it plays exactly the same. You have a scrolling track coming from the top, and cars that you have to dodge coming in pairs of like 1 and 2 that sort of curve across the screen. They don't come like straight down at you. Instead of on-screen timer and score, they actually have this little display on the side of the screen, which is nice because it leaves more of the screen to put details in. And basically you're going as far as you can to get as many points as you can within the time. For the scrolling graphics, though, they did do something interesting where it slightly shifts side to side, so it looks like the track is curving. So it's
Hmm.
not always like in the middle of the screen. And also, the track gets thinner and wider at different points in the race as well. And I'm not sure if that's random or if that's programmed in, but it creates these interesting moments where the track gets wide and then three cars are coming down, so you have much less track to work with. And there's also this weird thing that took me a while to figure out where the whole entire track, instead of being black, just turns white, which was a little blinding, but I figured out it's a gigantic ice patch on the track that makes it so your car loses traction and crashes much more easily. And
Uh,
also, it's kind of really hard to control.
hmm.
And it also seems like there may have been oil slicks that kind of had the same effect, but they just appeared periodically. But I didn't see any in the one video that we're pretty sure is 1977. I think they were in this version, but I don't know for sure. But other than that, there's a fair number of other cars on the track. That seems like more than the original Speed Race to me, but it's hard to tell because the original Speed Race actually had a decent number of cars coming at you. And basically, if you crash, you go to a full stop and you have to start over again. So now I want to go into my ratings to talk about all of the interesting changes that this made that kind of make it worthwhile and exciting for a Speed Race successor. Starting off with the graphics, I give it a 3.5 out of 10. This is really, I think, the main improvement over Speed Race for me. The cabinet was capable of displaying 16 different colors on screen, and I think they're all used in like pretty great ways. The cars all have like these purple tires that look interesting, and the player car's red, and all the opposing cars are like teal, yellow, purple, a bunch of different other colors. And then the area outside the track actually looks really nice instead of just being like white space or black space. It's just grass and a bunch of trees. And the trees actually have brown trunks and green leaves, which I feel like is such a monumental thing, as silly as it sounds. It's usually just
Yeah.
like all green trees just kind of like sitting in the background. So not only do the trees and the grass look really good, but also they, of course, help give a great sense of speed when they're just like flying by when you really start moving. And part of the reason that we liked Speed Race originally too is just that it really, with the scrolling graphics and everything flying by on the outside, gives you that great sense of like you're flying down the track, even though your car is pretty much not moving from the video game sense of it. The cars themselves also look pretty good, much more detailed than in the original. They look more like dragsters than like the typical toy car kind of thing we see in a lot of these games, so that's really nice. And the visual changes to the track are also really nice, but the white background for the track when it switches to being covered in ice, it's just really weird. It looked so bright, and all of the colors of the opposing cars are like pretty light colors too. So, I mean, to be fair, the video I was watching, there was glare on the screen of the person playing it, but it looks like it would be so hard to even see anything when that section comes on. So I wasn't a huge fan of that, but at least it's visually different. Now moved on to the sound. I gave it a 2 out of 10. The sounds are pretty good, but honestly, they just kind of sound on par with racing games that we're seeing right now. There's like a good engine sound, a good crash sound, and a nice skid sound on the ice and oil slicks, but overall, just nothing crazy, nothing new. It works, but meh, not outstanding. But then moving on to the gameplay, which I give a 3.5 out of 10, Super Speed Race keeps up the fast, frantic like, racing feeling that we loved from the first one, but it also adds enough twists that I think keeps it even more interesting and makes it feel different. The narrowing of the track every now and then makes it all the more frantic, and since the track moves and gets narrower and wider, you can't just remember the pattern of the cars coming down. Like your positioning is always different, so you always have to dodge in the moment, which keeps it very reactive and engaging. And in other versions of the game, there are even these crazy events that I don't think were in this game, but I want to mention them just in case, where like a tractor trailer would just come up from the bottom of the screen and you had to dodge it. And one of them even had a section where it would blink and say tunnel on the screen, and then everything would go dark and your car had headlights, and you could only see the opposing car when it was in your headlights. But we'll talk about that more because I'm thinking that's in the midway one. But even as far as this version, the difficulty moving when you're on the icy section of the track is interesting, even though the color is a little bit difficult. But it's just a nice curveball to make the car difficult to handle, to switch things up. And even though it's probably annoying, I think it adds to the overall gameplay of it. And then for relevance, I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's another Taito game, which we always love seeing Taito, and they're always doing great stuff. And it's a follow-up to the original Speed Race, which of course was super impactful and revolutionary. So I think Super Speed Race is definitely relevant. It doesn't necessarily make loads of improvements to the gameplay and the sound, but I think it does enough with new gameplay twists and enough to graphics especially to make it really feel like a worthy successor. And it looks like we'll be seeing a lot more fun editions of this and variations in the future, so I know it's relevant from that sense as well. So then overall, I gave it a 3.5 out of 10. It's a fun follow-up to the original with some nice additions to keep players on their toes. And even though it's difficult to tell what was in the original 77 release, just rating on what I saw on the one that I'm pretty sure is the earliest one, it looked really good. And it looks like they kind of only added to it without ruining the fantastic Speed Race gameplay at all. So yeah, I thought it was a really good one, and I think one that you should check out sometime, Ben. I know you love the original Speed Race, if I remember right.
Yeah, I definitely am going to check out probably one of the future ones. As soon as I saw those trees on the side, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. They're just really good looking.
It's honestly one of the things that's like makes it look so much better. Like if it was a colored cars and then the regular track, it's like okay, but the trees are so detailed. Like they didn't need to be for a game in 77, but it makes it look so much better.
Yeah, kind of remind me of Superbug. They had like kind of weird tree bush things, and when you're flying by it so quickly, it just really adds a lot to it. So
absolutely, yeah.
And I thought the cars too, like it might be the first time we've seen multicolored cars that aren't just like a solid color, if that makes sense. Like they each had some detail with different colors in there, which was cool.
Right, and it's not just like a lot of times we see one color and then they'll use the black space to do some of the details. But for this, they did like solid color for a body, different color for the tires, and then the black space for the driver. So it looks really good.
I'm glad that they finally made like a true sequel, because I feel like they've come out with a couple games from the Speed Race that all were kind of cashing on Speed Race without really doing anything.
Right, yeah, they didn't feel like they changed that much.
Yeah, it was like 2-player version, or this one, you're in a seat sitting down. It was like, okay, come on. When's the next real one? Because Speed Race came out in like 74, I think, so it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, it does seem like they did a pretty good job and lived up to it.
Yeah.
And then next up, we have a quick honorable mention for Unisonic 21 by Unisonic, which might have been released a little bit earlier than December. It looks like this was a handheld blackjack attached with a calculator that had a purely numeric display.
So calculator.
Yeah.
That was the last handheld of the year, by the way. Hey everyone, this is Ben from the future talking to you. As I'm sure you have noticed, my mic kind of went really bad after my first review, and I'm trying to fix that as much as I can. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to completely redo everything I said for my final review and hopefully go all the way to the outro. But just wanted to let you guys know this is a new recording. It's like a week later, so my voice probably sounds a little different, but hopefully we can get this figured out and have a good episode for you. So sorry about the issues, but let's get right back into it. Let's talk about our next game, Inferno by Meadows Games. And with a name like that, I was pretty excited to play it. I mean, it's Meadows Games. It's really weird though. Which sometimes can be okay, but you know, Meadows Games has made some weird games. But this one's extra weird. When I saw like pictures of it, I was like, is this like bugged? Because it's so weird. Something I want to say right away actually is apparently no pictures of the cabinet exist. No videos of it exist. But somebody did find the manual for it. And then the MAME team, or whoever builds MAME stuff was able to get it into MAME, so we were able to play it. But there's got to be like some sort of liberties that that team took in order to get it into MAME. I'm sure they did the best that they could, but everything's a little guesswork.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it has to be. And I'll mention and talk about that as I get into it. But the game itself is this weird firefighting game with a name like Inferno. I thought it was going to be something a little bit more dark, like darker, but it's a firefighter game for 2 players. And essentially, each player has a firefighter on the side of the screen. And if you hit like the up button, it'll go up on the screen and it'll go down, kind of like a firefighter going up and down a ladder on the sides of the screen. And then you have a fire truck that goes left to right on the bottom of the screen. And basically you have to line up the height with a firefighter with the left and the rightness of the fire truck beneath you, so that when the two kind of go together, kind of like imagine like a bullet coming out from both of them, where they intersect is where your water is going to go. And then you're basically trying to put out windows that are on fire by aiming in this way. So it's basically kind of like a aiming shooting kind of game, but you have 2 kind of controls really. You have one that's up down, one left right, and you have to combine them to line up and make your shot go where you want it to go. So that's basically the extent of the gameplay. The playfield itself is a massive like building. It's not really displayed at all, but there's a bunch of windows, and at any one time I want to say like there's 4 windows that are like lit up. Gonna be like 3 or 4 of them lit up at once. 3 of those are gonna have a fire in it, and then one of them is gonna have a dude holding up his hands like he's crying for help. And something that was like really weird to me is that if you shoot water at the dude, you lose points for some reason, which I don't really get. I mean, he seems like he needs help, and he seems like he's on fire too, so like getting with the water seems good. But anyway, after you put out the fires in the 3 windows, a brand new set of tiles will appear, and then you can keep going and going. So the play area is maybe like 8 by 8, but there's only ever like 4 tiles that are on it at any time. One always has a dude in it that apparently you don't want to hit, and then the others are fire. But that was kind of weird, but that's essentially the game. It's basically just you versus another person, and you're trying to hit the most tiles because there's 3 in every round. So I guess one person is always gonna kind of lose out. I guess you play like 5 or 6 rounds in one game, so kind of whoever gets the most tiles or shoots the most windows will win. So I guess you get kind of a nice playthrough at it, and the rounds seem to go pretty fast, so you only need to hit like 3 things, so it's not too bad. As strange as the controllers seem too, I mean, you do pick them up pretty fast, so it's not too much of a problem. It's almost like kind of being like in an Excel spreadsheet or something, and just like moving with your arrow keys, up, down, left, right, and finding the cell that you need.
Right, yeah, because sort of like an XY grid kind of thing, right? Like you're on 2 axes and you're kind of aiming on the grid. That makes sense.
Yeah, kind of. So that's kind of the game. So let's get into the ratings. I got some other stuff I had to talk about too, but something I should get out of the way real fast is sound. I had to give it an NA. From the manual, it actually says what the sound is supposed to be, but they weren't able to emulate it. I guess they're not going to until they get actual like evidence of what the sound sounded like. But in the manual, it does describe it as the sounds accompanying this gameplay are 2 distinctively different fire truck sounds to distinguish 2 players and the clatter of the firemen traveling up and down the ladder. So that's what the sound is. But I just had to NA it because I couldn't really hear it in any of the videos or emulation. For graphics, this is like one of the things I have to really talk to you about, Wes. It's super weird. So there's a couple different elements on the screen. One is a fire truck on the bottom, which it kind of looks like a fire truck maybe, but I mean, I can kind of like tell myself it's a fire truck, but the sprite of the hose off the side of the fire truck, or maybe like a ladder on the top of the fire truck lifted up a bit, It's always pointed at an angle, but the angle's never straight up, which is where the shot's gonna go. Like the shot's gonna go straight up, but it's angled to the side, which is like it doesn't really make sense to me. But I guess it looks like a fire truck. And then the fireman, he's got a nice fireman's hat on, which I will say. It is a stick figure kind of looking thing. I don't really have a problem with the figure itself, but the ladder, quote unquote, that they're standing on is just a rectangle, which, unless, like, I mean, it can't be. The ladder has to be like a triangle on the building, right? Like from the ground, and then the top part's resting is on the building. So it kind of has to be a triangle. It can't be like a rectangle. Like ladders don't go straight up and down; they like fall. So it's really weird looking at. First, I thought he kind of had just like really long legs, but no, I think it's supposed to be a ladder. It's basically like just two posts
Weird.
that just go down the side of the screen that the guy just like stands on. So it's real weird. And the posts will go up and down as you move the arrow keys. So it's kind of, it's weird. It just like no ladder rungs either. It's just like a solid rectangle. It's very strange. And then like the part that you're shooting at, the fires, they look really good. That's obviously like what they were trying to do graphics wise. They wanted the fires to look good. They used two colors. It had to have been with an overlay, which I'll talk about in a sec. But the dude in the window who's holding up his hands, he looks really bad. Kind of a stick figure, but they wanted him to have like eyes and a mouth. But because it's just black behind the screen, I don't know. It just like looks like a weird ghost man. Like he's got no soul or something.
Right.
And then what's really confusing is this obviously had an overlay. And I'm only saying that because the way the emulation's done kind of tells me it kind of had to have an overlay with the flames on it. And then, you know, probably like lights would light up behind the overlay when those certain tiles came on. But the dude, because he's behind the overlay of flames, he's always on fire. like his body is flames.
That makes it even more confusing that you're not supposed to shoot him.
I know. I mean, he has a very distressing face to him. I mean, his hands are up. Maybe he's giving you the middle finger. I don't know. But the other thing that's really weird too is that he is much larger and more detailed than the firefighters. Like, it looks like he's a giant. Yeah, the firefighters are like half the size. And weirdly enough, I kind of like how the firefighters look, even though they're more simple. But it's really weird. And then also, when you fire the water, that's kind of represented by like a beam of light going towards the fire in the window. But if the fire in the window is in the middle of the screen and there's a big overlay of fire, then that means that the light is underneath the overlay. So it looks like you're shooting fire at the fire, which is really weird.
Right.
It's kind of hard to describe, but it's a really weird looking game for sure. The fires definitely look the best, but it doesn't really make sense that you're shooting fire at the fires. Like you're illuminating other fires once you make a shot, which is weird.
Right. Yeah. So it just looks like he's got a flamethrower instead of a hose.
Yeah, exactly. And the dude in the window looks really weird because he looks like a weird fire monster. And the truck is like smaller than the guy in the window, and it's also smaller than the actual firefighter stick figures. It's like the smallest thing on the screen. So the proportions there are also really weird. I mean, the firefighters are also in boxes. There's just like a lot of weird stuff. I kind of see what they were going for, so I get it, I guess, but it's really weird. I ended up giving graphics 2 out of 10. The fires look amazing. They look cool. I like the firefighter models. I like that they put at least a sprite of a fire truck in there for each person, but there's just a lot of really confusing things that I just really didn't understand what the game was when I played it. I mean, it took a while. But, you know, it's Meadows game, so I guess they can get away with it, right?
Yeah, they do weird stuff.
And then gameplay, I gave it 2 out of 10 again. I think it would be a little hectic with you and another person. And with only 3 like fire tiles per screen, so always someone's gonna win, and that's kind of that's kind of cool. I guess I like that. If you play with another person, you really have to be conscious though of what the best fire to go to. Maybe it's not even the closest fire, but it has to be the one that's closest to the second fire because really you're just looking for 2 out of 3. So there's kind of a nice level of strategy there, other than just how fast can I get to the closest fire. So, and obviously don't shoot the weird fire monster guy, but I don't know. I thought it was fun, but I don't think I'd play it. I don't know, even maybe a second game.
Right.
Just a one time through was probably kind of cool, and that's mainly because of the shooting mechanics being so easy. There's not a whole lot of replayability, but it's pretty good for player 2, I guess. For relevance, I gave it a 3 out of 10. I mean, nobody can find evidence of this game like anywhere, so I mean, I couldn't even find like a flyer for it, which is super weird.
Yeah.
So it kind of leads me to believe that maybe it was a prototype and that was never released, but with the weird stuff in it too, I kind of wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, but people did find a manual for it, so it was made at some point. I guess it was like a manual for the arcade owners, so it had the logistics of the electronical components inside of it laid out, so they were able to kind of rebuild it from that pretty well, but it's definitely a weird one, and it's memorable, but it's memorable in the way that like the display is so weird, but I don't think the gameplay is like was anything super advanced or interesting. So just gave it a 3. And overall, I gave it a 2 out of 10. It was weird and that made it kind of fun, but for everything that was really cool about it, there was also something that I was just scratching my head over. So yeah, Meadows Games here to end it out. I should say I think I've seen dates for this in 78, and I did see some dates from like sites that I trust the most say that it was December of 77 though, so that's where we're putting it. It's definitely right on the edge either way, so I was cool leaving it in December. But yeah, what do you think, Wes? I gotta send you a picture of what it looked like. It's so strange, so you can see it.
Absolutely. It sounds like a weird one, but maybe not in the way that we usually like from Meadows games, but you know, they got to keep throwing stuff out there, and
Yeah,
sometimes it'll work.
I mean they were trying something.
Yeah, and sometimes it'll be fire monsters.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta send it to you.
Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, I gotta send it to you now so you can like review it live on air.
So after taking a look at Inferno, I can confirm there's a lot of strange fire monsters and a lot of laser beams with fire in them that are being used to put out fires.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of the ladders? They're like so confusing.
It just looks like they're on floating pedestals, like that extend when they need them to.
Yeah.
Especially because it's not even like he moves down it. It's like the whole ladder moves down with him.
Yeah, exactly. And like nothing is like scaled right. Like the windows are probably twice as the size of the firefighter.
Yeah. No, there's a lot going on here.
Stuff.
Yeah.
But the fire looks good though. It does look good.
It definitely does.
Yeah, but Inferno, guys, check it out. Definitely look up a video of it. It's definitely worth doing. So after Inferno, we got one quick honorable mention here called Aldebaran 3. Is that how you say that? I don't know.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Or maybe Aldebaran 3. I think it's actually from a like real intellectual property. So there's probably people out there super angry that I don't know how to pronounce it. But it's basically a sci-fi RPG, like a text-based RPG. It was written in the Wonder program. Wander. Am I saying that wrong too? Wander? Oh my god.
Wander.
Getting like flashbacks. Didn't we have this problem before? So this was written in the Wander program, which we've seen twice now before. We've seen it. It's kind of like that weird RPG where you can actually write your own RPGs in it. Do you remember this, Wes?
Vaguely, yeah.
The first game was called Castle, and this one is written by the same guy who wrote Castle, and it's basically another colossal cave adventure-esque game. So it's all text-based. It's more puzzly than like combat. I don't think there's any combat in it, there's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of you just going around talking to people and trying to find a key here or a password here or whatever.
Right.
So it would probably be a little annoying to play, but all we have is the code available. We might have been able to get it running, but we've played Colossal Cave Adventure before, and I felt that this really didn't add anything. It was a sci-fi based RPG, and weirdly enough, I think you entered like what they called a dungeon. So that's a little strange for like a sci-fi game, but I don't know. It seemed kind of cool. I mean, I'll take another RPG. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, we love to see him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down. But that was by Peter Langston sometime in late 77.
And then next up, we have the second game, or actually like set of games that I reviewed today. This is a weird one and a real fun one. It's the Videobrain family computer, which was created by Umtech Incorporated, and it released in December of 77. And it lived for a couple years. There was games that came out in 78 as well. What I'm going to cover is one of the most interesting games that came out in 77, and also just talk about pretty broadly the computer itself and some of the other games that released in 77. So the Videobrain family computer was based off of the Fairchild F8 CPU. It came with a full keyboard, but apparently not really in a layout that made sense. It looks like it was still QWERTY, but I guess people had issues with how it was. Maybe the sizing was weird. And it could cost anywhere between $500 to $1,100 at the time, depending on the accessories that came with it. So
Dang.
that's, yeah, at the top end, that's a lot of money. 500, I mean, it's expensive, but I think that's in line with what personal computers at the time were.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the keyboard at least was standard. So maybe the extra was for, who knows, like a TV to run with it or a cassette tape that you could run. The software for this, though, actually came on cartridges, even though it was a computer. And the way that the cartridges worked for this was really strange. Apparently, it had like information stored on like a tape, almost like a cassette. But the tape, when you plugged it into the computer, just kind of like rested on pins in the computer that would then read the information. Like, doesn't sound like a very positive connection, but I guess it worked somehow. It could, with a TV set, play sounds and also display 16 color graphics. And it also had 4 ports for joysticks that were just part of the machine. So it definitely was geared towards playing games, or at least some of the educational programs that it had on it. So it's nice that you didn't have to get another expansion unit to be able to plug in controllers like with some of the other computers. And despite all of this, it sounds pretty interesting. But for whatever reason, maybe bad marketing or not a good distribution network, it didn't sell very well, and it was discontinued within 3 years. But getting on to the games that it played in 77 on these different cartridges, which you did have to buy separate. I'm not sure which ones came with it, so part of the reason also might have been that it was very cost prohibitive. But one of the first games is Blackjack, which is just pretty standard. There's no cards, but it does show the suits and the numbers, and it makes a bunch of sounds. And it's just kind of black with a red and green background. So it looks pretty nice, but it's nothing too crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Next interesting one is called Music Teacher 1. It actually taught you how to read sheet music in both bass and treble clef.
Oh.
I know, right? It had it on the screen. It showed you the notes for him, and it had this diagram in the manual to show you, like, on the keyboard what note each key played. So it actually kind of turned it into a keyboard. You could actually record things on it and then play it back. It had a couple songs that it would play to you, like Row, Row, Row Your Boat and Happy Birthday, that you could play along with to learn how to play the keyboard. Obviously not like a real keyboard because it's on a weird, wordy setup, but it at least taught you how to read sheet music, which was pretty interesting. And then there was a game called Wordwise, which gives you 10 letters that you had to make words from, and then different scoring based on the maximum word length that you got, and you could play competitively with 2 players. So it's almost like a Scrabble type game, or like Words with Friends, the modern app. It's probably like 5 years old by now, but that sort of thing where you're given letters and you have to make words out of them. Sounds pretty interesting, and it did actually have a, not super detailed, but it did have a display to show you the letters and all the scoring. And then WordWise 2, which was basically just typing exercises to up your typing speed and teach you how to type. But then, the real star of the show for games on the Videobrain family computer in 1977 is this bizarre game called Gladiator, which is 385 games in one, it
What?
claims. It's it's a lot. And unlike a lot of the games where it's, saying 300 something games, and it's basically because of variations that it has this many types of games,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these are actually pretty interesting. So within those 385 games, there were three main game types that were all variations on basically having like two players that can shoot something to hit something at like its basest form. The first one was called Ancient Gladiator, where you were warriors or gladiators and you were fighting each other, but then lions would show up on the screen and you would have to dodge the lions. And if they hit you, you would lose a life and the other player would get a point. Each player only had 7 arrows per round, and you could hit each other with them to get points and basically win the game. The next version is called Modern Gladiator, and despite what your expectations might be, it's football, which is super weird and interesting. The game mode for this was called Scrimmage, and basically each player is either the QB or I guess a defensive lineman, depending on whether you're offense or defense. When you have the ball, you have 2 receivers that you can throw to, one that's always in the end zone, and then one that actually runs the ball slowly to the end zone. And then on defense, you can either tackle the QB or the receiver, depending on who has the ball, to get possession.
Hmm.
So it's this weird, like, pretty interesting little football game in the middle of all this gladiator stuff. And then the next one is Future Gladiator, which is a space battle game where both players are UFOs fighting in this maze, except they did something real strange with the graphics, and I don't know how they did it, but the solid walls, or it's not really a maze so much as there are barriers around that you have to move past and you can't shoot through, but they're all like fuzzy and staticky and they're constantly changing, like nebulas. It's so strange. I thought it was a graphical glitch, but I think it's probably something they intended, although I don't know how they did it. But then, similar to Ancient Gladiator, instead of a lion, a space mine comes on the screen that if you run into it, it kills the players. And same thing, you're just trying to blow each other up. Whoever gets the most points wins. And so, with these 3 basic game types, there's so many combinations that at the end of the manual, it just has this chart of like each game and each modifier, and then like which number you press in to get all these modifiers on this game type. And that's how they end up with 385 different games. But to just give you an idea of some of the modifiers that you could put into it, some of the easy and most notable ones are 2 players or player versus AI. You could do bouncing projectiles. You could do guided projectiles that after you shoot them, you control them with your joystick. You could do super fast projectiles. You could play the games with no line or no space mine. And you could also make either one player or both players move faster. So if you wanted to give a handicap, you could just make one gladiator super fast for some reason.
Hmm.
But enough of those are interesting enough that I think they'd be worth playing. I mean, I would probably say like 30 games instead of 384.
Right.
But even so, that's a decent bit. And I was pretty surprised by how many it had. And I do want to mention that it has this awesome iconic classical tune at the start of all the games, which I do not remember the name of. And I don't know if I'm going to try to sing it, so maybe I'll have Ben listen to it later and tell me what it is.
Do don don. Oh yeah. Da-da. Yeah. It's like from a movie or something. I
Yeah,
forget
but I
now.
forget what it is.
I'm not sure what it's called.
Okay. But we don't know what it is, but we'll look it up at some point and maybe put it on the website or something. But with all that in mind, I just want to get into my ratings for this now, mainly talking about Gladiator, but also reflecting some of the other games that are on the system. So for graphics, I gave it a 3 out of 10. Even just looking at Gladiator, it does a lot with what it has. I mean, it's still not as good fidelity, I guess, as you would expect on an arcade cabinet, but there's just so much variety. I mean, the difference in sprites and characters from ancient gladiator to modern gladiator to future gladiator are all pretty great. I mean, there's lions, there's gladiators, there's football players, there's footballs, there's arrows, there's spaceships, there's lasers, there's space mines. It all looks pretty good for a computer in 1977. And also, even though I don't know how they did it and if it was a glitch or not, the weird fuzzy static barriers in Future Gladiator are really cool and different, even though it probably does make it a little annoying to look at after a while. But for the most part, everything is clear and it's easy to see where everything is on the screen. There's even like ammo indicators in Ancient Gladiator where you only have 7 arrows, and there's all these Greek or Roman pillars all over the place decorating the arena that you're in. So it's definitely still not super great graphics, but really impressive for a computer in 1977. Now moving on to the sounds, I gave it a 3.5 out of 10. When you're just talking about Gladiator, the sounds are simple and they get a little old, kind of just based on all the different musical tones that the Videobrain can make, and it can play a ton of music notes. But when you look at it from the perspective of music teacher one and knowing all the sounds that this system can make, it's kind of crazy. It also plays Row, Row, Row Your Boat. It plays Happy Birthday. It plays that iconic tune before Gladiator. And it feels like the first time that we've just kind of had all the music notes available, and you can tell the computer what to play, or you can play it through Music Teacher to make your own music. So even though it's just this different tones of the same sound, it just has so much variety and so much capability to it. So moving on to the gameplay, again, I gave it a 3.5 out of 10, and again, it's because of just how much variety there is. Like I said, I don't know if there's 384 games, but even 30 different game modes is still pretty impressive. And I feel like a lot of them are interesting enough that I would want to try them. I think Future Gladiator and Ancient Gladiator are pretty similar, but the addition of something just like weird and out there, like Modern Gladiator being a football game, I think is really awesome. And it's also really cool to see a football game where you can actually take turns throwing the ball and tackling, even though it is only like 2 people on the field at the same time. It's still nice to have that option. And also, I just think the fact that this came with the ability to play it on a joystick makes it a huge plus over other games that we've seen on computers that you're playing with mouse, or not even mouse at this point, but just keyboard. It might not have worked as well. So for relevance, I gave it a 4 out of 10. I think it's one of the most unique and maybe craziest computers that we've seen so far. It doesn't look like it made much of an impact. The keyboard layout was apparently very strange and didn't work well, and also it seems like it was pretty expensive. So for whatever reason, it just didn't make a splash, even though the programs on this are absolutely crazy. So overall, I gave it a 3.5 out of 10. I think the Videobrain is so interesting. It's one of the few computers where I feel like I get something out of a lot of the modifiers with Gladiator. There are a decent number of fun games other than Gladiator too. So if you're looking back at it and not thinking about the price, I think it's amazing. Obviously at the time, all those cartridges probably would have been too much for what they were worth. But when you're looking at it as a whole, it's just great sound, great gameplay, great graphics, all on one computer.
Mm-hmm. Dude, the line looks so good.
Doesn't it?
I think, yeah.
All of it looks good. I should mention that pretty much all the characters, the football players and the gladiators, only have one arm, I think. They didn't feel the need to really put another one in there, or at least it's kind of just like tucked in his side the whole time. But
yeah,
either way, they all look really good for a computer.
I like too that each one, like the background is different enough to make you feel like you're in like 3 different places, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And they even have a different colored background for a modern gladiator, which switches it up like just enough that helps sell the theme, like you're saying.
It almost feels like Gladiator could be like an Atari 2600 title, but like on a computer. And I would say even even a little bit better looking. Like I think there's more resolution here than on the 2600.
I was really surprised with how good it looks, considering it's just like this random computer that nobody's heard of from 1977.
Yeah. It's pretty hard to find info for, but I'm glad we did it because it was a really cool one and a great one to kind of end the year on.
Absolutely.
But if you're cool, Wes, we've got two more honorable mentions here before we close it out.
Yeah, let's go straight into it.
All right, cool. So this first one here is called Future War by Eric Witz and Nick Boland. And this is another RPG out of the University of Illinois, of course. And they apparently said like that the first versions of this game were apparently available in 1977, but the oldest playable version that we have that is on the Plato Network is from 1979. And I felt a little weird playing a 1979 version right now in 77. So I decided to postpone our review of it until at least 1978, if not all the way till 1979, to make it more accurate to where this version is in the timeline. So I just kind of wanted to quickly mention it comes out in 77, but we're going to be playing it in 79 probably. And we definitely will be playing it because it looks really cool. And it actually takes place in the future. So it has a gun model, which I think is the first time a first person game ever has a gun model in the game. You know, like kind of like in front of you. So you can kind of like look down the barrel a little bit and see like your guy holding the gun.
Yeah.
Similar to something like Doom. So we're definitely going to be taking a look at it, but we're just going to do it closer to the playable date that we have, which is 1979. So be on the lookout for it.
And then last up, we have World Cup by Sega, which is likely in late 77, but we have seen some dates from March of 78 for this. But it looks like it was a soccer game that used trackpads to move around, and we don't really have too much info other than that.
Yeah, I do know it had sprites of people instead of like pong paddles, which is nice.
Oh, yeah, that's always a good sign.
But that's it, guys. That's 1977. We've done it. I mean, I don't know how many episodes it's been, but it's been a lot. A lot of great games, a lot of weird games. But for today, we wrapped it up. We talked about 77 in general. We checked out Ricochet, which was actually like a really, really old game, but Building Associates was just now getting on it. And then Wes did Super Speed Race, the actual great sequel to Speed Race. And then I did Inferno, which is a weird, like, probably prototype game from Meta's Games that never seems to have really shipped or came out. And then a crazy kind of like one that I live for, Wes. It's a little hidden gem, the Videobrain family computer. You guys have to check out the videos for it. Gladiator specifically is just really cool.
Absolutely. And as always, make sure to keep an eye on our Twitter where we'll post any announcements about what's going on with our episodes. Check out our website for taking a look back at all of 77 and 76, and as we keep updating it to see just how much we've covered and all the great info we have there. And send us an email if you have any questions.
And with that, we'll see you next time in 1978.
See y'all next year.